Oh, hi. Just reminding you that you can check out our podcast feed. You get daily news, interviews like the one you're about to hear, old wrestling reviews, and a whole load of other great stuff every single day. You can get the link down below, or you can download it wherever you get your podcasts from. Cheers. For the first time ever on Cultaholic Island, we are joined by a citizen of Cultaholic Island. Doesn't happen very often. Normally I'm hanging around by the airport.
I'm doing my best hula dance, Tom, because we're getting all tropical.
There is a wonderful hula dance going on. It's actual Ross Tweddell.
Oh, we're shaking hands. This is very official.
Formal welcome to Cultaholic Desert Island Graps.
It's a very nice island, very picturesque.
Thank you very much. We've put this foam in especially. Before we do anything else, do you get annoyed when people get the surname wrong? Because I've said it before I met you. I heard about 300 different pronunciations of it.
Well, it's all Adam Pachiti's fault because Adam Pachiti, in his accent, goes, "Oh, Tweddell. It's a funny second name, isn't it?" He started calling me Tweddell, and it happened so often on camera at the start of Cultaholic. I was just like, "Well, my name's Ross Tweddell now." But officially, it's an Irish name. Okay. And it is actually pronounced Tweddell officially, but my mum, being from the north, was like, "We're not that posh, it's Tweddle."
Oh, so, really?
Do
you have any Irish heritage that you're aware of?
I've probably got loads. I need to do that DNA thing that had Deck related to Dixie Carter. Yeah. I need that thing in my life. I'm going to do it soon.
Who'd have realised this time last year that Declan Donnelly would turn out to be one of the most powerful men in Northeast wrestling? What a weird time we live in.
I should put some money into somewhere. Do it, why not?
We are here today because we are going to chat about some of your favourite wrestling matches. That's how it works on Desert Island Graps. We're going to send you to a metaphorical desert island, not this one, another one. And with you are allowed to take some of your favourite wrestling matches, and we're going to get to those very soon. We've just celebrated 2 years here at Cultaholic.
Woohoo!
Congratulations to... I still feel like saying congratulations to you.
Why? You've been here for like how long? Half a year?
10 minutes in the grand scheme of things.
Half a year?
Has it been half a year already?
May?
Oh,
was it?
Gosh.
That's when we were in Vegas.
Oh, I may have started... Oh, yeah, that's an alarming thought. It's still... I want to go back to that first day when you walked into. Well, I said the first day you walked into the office.
We didn't have one.
First WTF was in a field
in the forest next to a school, which me and Sam didn't quite realise until we saw a rugby team trot out onto the field, and we were sat there. Oh, I was in the forest screaming, and he was sat there with a camera. And then the old man who had a go at me for saying the word bugger or bastard, maybe. He was like, "Stop swearing, you're hurting my kids' ears." He had 2 dogs with him, so he would call his dogs kids, which is quite adorable, but also quite unnerving.
A little bit peculiar.
And he kept saying as well, "Well, I know what you're doing," as me and Sam were in the bushes with a camera next to a school field.
I don't know why they would think that. It's quite an acid test for confidence and stuff to do. Any kind of filming outside.
I hate it. I die of shame. When I went to Amsterdam, vlogging I found very difficult. I just feel like a monumental knobhead doing stuff like outside the office, yeah.
Because when we're here, to sort of let you behind the curtain, when Ross comes in to do WTF moments, like it resonates off the walls.
It's loud, isn't it?
It's beautiful. And it's great because it means that whenever we have visitors out there and you just suddenly hear like through muffled walls, "Whoa, it's amazing. You feel like you're part of a real thing." But yeah, it's a whole different thing to talk outside and vlog outside, but to do WTF moments outside for a company that was barely existing at that point.
Yeah.
To go and do it, it was quite the moment. Did you feel better when you finally came into a studio to do it?
It felt like we'd actually started a company when we got the studio, because it was a good few weeks before we actually got our hands on the keys to this place. We had to edit videos out of Sam's bedroom at the time and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a nice humble start. But yeah, there was a reason we shot those in the woods. It's because I'm very shy and reserved in real life, so I don't deal well with doing stuff in public in front of other human beings.
Are you really so?
Yeah. Dreadfully. I've got a terrible... My biggest fear of, as part of this job has been doing stuff on stage. Like, went to the convention last year with Wrestle Talk and then doing stuff in Vegas at StarCast. I really struggle with it. It's weird to say that with this line of work.
It is.
I didn't pick this line of work. I just fell arse backwards into it.
Well, I would like to get into how you got into something like this, because it's a very peculiar job that we all find ourselves in. One that's very hard to explain to outsiders.
Yeah.
Like, I had a tough time before this telling a taxi driver that I was a radio presenter. That felt weird.
My go-to line, any Uber, they're like, "Oh, what do you do for a living, mate?" I work in video production.
Oh, nice.
That's what I say. And he goes, oh, that sounds real fancy, that, like. And then they don't say anything else because they don't know what they're talking about. And I'm like, yes, don't have to say I talk about wrestling on YouTube. Because you know what? I'm proud to be a wrestling fan, but in the grand scheme of things, you can't say it, can you, to many people without being ridiculed.
It
just gets awkward.
It opens a lot of weird conversational doors, doesn't it? And sometimes you're just a bit tired. And you haven't got the energy.
Especially with a taxi driver. That's the only place I use it. That's the only place I have to use it.
Yeah.
Just in the back of a taxi.
But then the problem is then that you run the risk of, if you get the same taxi driver, you've got to remember your backstory.
That's why I've got the go-to line. I work in video production.
Where I used to work, it used to be in a big tower. There was a call center in there as well. So, and I got picked up from there a few times. Sometimes I couldn't have the energy to say, I'm a radio presenter and I work for Heart and all this. And I just said, I work in the call center. And they said, it's the TV call center, isn't it? I said, yeah. I said, well, thing is, I wanted a new deal on me box. And I was like, oh no. And then the next time I saw him, he went, did you get me a deal yet? And I just jump over and go, oh no, it's you, isn't it? Oh no. So I get the struggle. Have you had that where someone's gone, hey, how's that video production?
I had, not that, but I had one where I lied to the taxi driver, but he knew Jen. And he was like, are you not on that YouTube channel with that woman? I was like, yeah, I am. I've been found out. I've been riddled.
That woman.
Rumbled, sorry, not riddled. What am I talking about?
Riddled or rumbled. We'll talk more about that as we go on, but to get things underway. So if you're listening for the very first time or watching for the very first time, I'm sending you, Ross, to a desert island. And before you go, I'm going to burn onto a DVD 3 wrestling matches that you will happily watch whilst you're on said desert island. You have to assume that this island has electricity, a DVD player, and a television as well. Let's open our minds really wide on this one. Your first wrestling match you'd like burned onto the DVD?
Well, I'm going to go with the one where if I was going to try and introduce somebody to professional wrestling, I would show them this match because I think it encapsulates everything beautiful about professional wrestling, and it's Hogan versus Rock from WrestleMania 18. I don't think I need to say too much more, but for the purposes of this show and for the content, I will.
Yes, thank you, mate.
I think a crowd makes or breaks a professional wrestling match, and that crowd made that match 10 times better or 100 times better than it actually. Because if you just take what happened in the ring, very basic, because Hulk Hogan was 7 hips deep. By that point, several knees as well, a new back, a new body. He's like that old Trigger thing from Only Fools and Horses. It's the same broom, but it's had 12 new hair. Yeah.
He's the Trigger's broom of wrestling is Hulk Hogan.
Probably the same colour.
Oh, gosh.
But, yeah, the crowd... Because I don't think it's a match that could ever happen again in WWE, because it was 2 men who were trusted to react off the crowd. Because the story goes that everyone in the company expected, obviously, Rock being Rock to get cheered and Hogan being NWO Hogan and having tried to kill The Rock in the build-up to that match to be booed. But Toronto's Bizarro land, where the people who you normally cheer get booed and vice versa. So, yeah, they were allowed to react off the crowd. It just makes you smile when you watch it. I know it involves Hogan and whatever it's happened in recent years happened. I don't particularly have got time for the guy anymore. But you watch that match still this day and it just makes you smile.
We said this in the office the other day, didn't we? About how we all grew up on Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Like Hulk Hogan was the reason so many of us got into wrestling. But it seems so dirty to say that now. Compared to what's happened around it.
Yeah,
it really does. Take me back to the night you watched that match. So it'd be 2002. What was Ross doing in 2002?
I was in year 5 at the time when WrestleMania 18 happened. I wouldn't have seen this match until God knows when, because I didn't have Sky or access to Sky until 2004. So I had a mate at home who I think you might know. I think he's called Joaquin Phoenix.
I do know Joaquin Phoenix.
He was my one of my best pals growing up. He used to live along the road with him.
For real?
Yeah,
he used to. Actor plays the Joker, Joaquin Phoenix.
No, not Joaquin. The wrestler from the Northeast. What have I just said there?
You said Joaquin Phoenix, the actor.
No, not him. Who is he? What's his name? I've gone blank here. Wrestles for MEW and stuff like that. Joaquin. Is it?
Joaquin?
It's not Joaquin, is it? I've forgotten his wrestling name.
Okay.
Jonah Phoenix.
And Adam Burrows.
Is it Jonah Phoenix?
Jonah Phoenix.
Is it Jonah Phoenix?
I know the wrestler Jonah Phoenix.
Is it Jonah Phoenix?
Yes.
I've just gone completely blank there. I saw the Joker not too long ago.
Is his first name Adam?
Adam Gosling.
Yes, that's Jonah Phoenix.
Yes, Jonah Phoenix, not Joaquin Phoenix.
You know what?
There's a big difference.
My interviewer brain just went, he knew Whacking Phoenix. In my head, I've already clipped that bit off. I put it online with a picture of the Joker and a picture of you next to it. I do know Jonah Phoenix.
Yes,
though.
he lived along the street from me when I was a kid, and we used to play football just about every day in the summer. And so my wrestling would largely come from him getting access to something, taping it, and then I would take the tape off him when he watched it, and then watch it for a few days and give him it back. It was like Blockbusters without the fee. So I wouldn't have seen. I don't think I would have seen I might be talking bollocks here, but I don't think I would have seen WrestleMania Exit until he had seen it. But I was in year 5, yeah.
How did you have many friends when you were year 5 who were into wrestling?
Just
as well?
him.
Just
him.
Just Adam.
And we went to different schools, so I would go to school and just talk about football and football stickers and Pokemon cards and all that malarkey, and then come home and ask him about the wrestling. I remember I asked him, like, because I was really stupid as a child, and I'm still really stupid now, but I never used to log on the internet and find stuff out because we had like the dial-up broadband, so that was an effort in itself to run down the stairs with the spinny out thing and then plug it into the phone thing and then run back up the stairs and then turn the computer on and all that malarkey. So I just go to him all the time, what's happening in the wrestling world? And he would give me little Raw recaps on Raw and stuff like that. But yeah, my wrestling fandom came through him a lot. Joaquin Phoenix.
the man who played the Joker that time. Did Adam introduce you to wrestling then?
No, I was aware of wrestling because I think I got toys first. But my first time I was conscious of it was my 8th birthday. I got 2 VHSs. One was the Superstar Series VHS about Goldberg and Sting. Okay. And it was sort of like, it was in kayfabe but out of kayfabe as well. It was about their life and their careers. Just a career retrospective, basically, and watching Goldberg on that especially. I was a big fan of Sting as well with the Crow stuff that was going on at the time. It was all about, the main point of the Sting one, I remember, was being the Starrcade 97 build-up and all that malarkey. And even though that match was an absolute farce with Bret Hart and everything, the build-up was fantastic for 2 years or whatever it was.
But at the time, as a young wrestling fan, we weren't so bothered with the build-up being anything.
No!
We just saw it and absorbed it.
There's a cool, scary man, and there's a man I don't like, called Hulk Hogan. Well, Hollywood Hogan at the time. So yeah, I got that, and I got Super Brawl 2000 on VHS.
Oh, wow. Was that the first... Is that like was that the one where all the belts were vacated from WCW and they were finding new champions?
No, because Sid walked in. I remember Sid walked in as the world champion. He was against Scott Hall and Jeff Jarrett in a triple threat. I think there was a cruiserweight title tournament where the final was Lash LaRue versus Prince Iaukea with Paisley.
Is it great?
James Brown was there. The cat wheeled him out.
Remember this because
I remember thinking the cat was the dog's bollocks because he was able. Because I knew even though I was a young lad, I knew who James Brown was. Not very well, but I knew who it was. And he wheeled him out and started dancing with him. And I was like, he must be the biggest guy in wrestling.
The fun story with that is that Ernest Miller was constantly teasing James Brown, and then the one show he just turned up.
Yeah.
And it was like, you could have hyped this better. It's just like, oh, you've paid all this money to tell nobody that James Brown is here.
Yeah.
That's incredible. But so your first in with wrestling was WCW.
Goldberg, especially from that Superstars series VHS thing, just him flattening everybody. Like when you're 8 years old, gets you going, doesn't it?
Do you know what? It does. And there's something that I think we do this job. We're very blessed to do it. But there's something that's sort of lost a little bit where that innocence about watching wrestling, where it's just, I'm just going to watch the match. Whereas like we find ourselves like dissecting every minutia of the before,
that is the
after, during.
That is the only bad thing about this job is the fact that the wrestling we review, you can't sit back and enjoy it. I'm sitting there doing WTF moments for all of WWE's main roster stuff, and I haven't enjoyed main roster WWE for 4 or 5 years now because I haven't been able to, because you have to sit there and analyse everything, especially the way I choose to nitpick everything because I'm an arsehole. But
that's the whole shtick, and we were going to roll into WTF moments now anyway, because 5 years now you've been doing it.
I did it as an article, and then it started on the What Culture Wrestling channel in February 2016. But I'd been doing it for a good year and a half as just an article before that, so it's been a long time.
So when was the decision made for you, as somebody who, you know, at that point you've even said at this point that you weren't massively comfortable with doing public speaking and stuff like that?
No.
To change it from an article to a video production?
It came from a lot of me and Jack moaning about watching Adam and Adam getting paid to drink and watch wrestling. And we were thinking, why can't we do that? And obviously from my perspective, it was because I'm not a very outgoing, as you know, in the office here. I'm very quiet. by and large, I just sit there and just get on with stuff, and then just if I'm spoken to, I reply, but I don't really start conversation. I'm a very reserved guy, so I think that was a massive drawback from the What Culture Boss's perspective, is that I wouldn't have like what it takes to be like a compelling guy on camera, and that came out over time, I think, because I'm a loud arsehole now. But if you watch the first video, it's horrible. It's like a young rabbit in headlights when a big car's approaching them fast. But it came from me and Jack moaning for a while, and then eventually just got to the point where the bosses were like, well, we'll give you a go and we'll see how it goes. And they probably could have taken me off straight away because it was bad to begin with, but thank God they didn't, because it's spiraled into this, and it's good. But I think that's why they dressed me up as well, just to sort of shield the fact I wasn't very outgoing before I got on camera.
It kind of gave you a persona.
Yeah.
That you could step into,
which was unbearable looking back.
Really?
Oh,
are you not a fan looking back on that time?
No, it was unbearable. It was horrible.
But you find that a lot of people will have followed you over here because of that.
It definitely had its following, but personally, just looking back on what I used to do and how I used to go about things, it was bad. And they trademarked it, and I think it was the best thing that ever happened to me in this line of work, because I was able to just like be more myself, and I'm a nicer, more watchable presenter now. I think people might disagree with that. That's your opinion. Good for you.
What do you think's changed since being that persona and being a bit more who you are now?
Because the one thing I was told when I was like, you're going to be a king, that you've got to call people loyal subjects. That was the one thing I was told, and I was like, I've got to feed into that king thing, haven't I, and being obnoxious and unbearable. And I'm still quite obnoxious with WTF, but I'm also more measured and more considered, because I feel like I have to be, because I'm not hiding behind a regal, pompous gimmick, if you want. It has to be more, because my name's Ross Tweddell in real life. It's Ross Tweddell on camera. You've got to be more responsible with what you say, I find. So
the king thing was something that was given to you?
Yeah.
Were there other considerations?
Well, it spiraled from, because back at What Culture, when we just did the articles on the site, I used to do Raw. I think Jack did SmackDown WTF moments as an article, and then they had a third writer who did the pay-per-views. And in the comments of Jack's and the other guys, they would always say, where's Ross? Why is he not writing this article? He's the king of WTF. And I used to wind Jack up in the office going, oh, I'm the king of the... And then that got to the office, and they're like, well, we'll dress you up as a king then.
Own the gimmick, I suppose.
But it could have been very different, because one of the bosses wanted to dress me up as something different every single week, a different wrestling character. And I've talked about this before on the channel. I almost quit What Culture then, because they opened a chat on our messaging service, and it was, I don't know what it was called, it was like Ross, dress up Ross like an arsehole or something like that. And all the wrestling guys were in there, and they were suggesting just things I could dress up as. And obviously being a bigger lad to go to was like, oh, you should dress up as Triple H in little spandex, and the dicks and this, that, and the other, and Big Dick Johnson. That'll be funny, wouldn't it? And I was just like, is this what my life's coming to? I'm on my way out here. So the boss bought me a blue shirt and a truncheon and a pair of sunglasses to be the big boss man. And I lied about the shirt not fitting, just so I didn't have to do it.
Wow.
So I was like, there's your shirt back. I'm just going to try and do this king thing. Because he said people would be bored of it within 2 weeks. I was like, I'll show you I can do better than that. And it turned out quite well. I think it had run its course by the end. I think a lot of people were sick of it, which, they would have been. But
well, my first time seeing you was in the King regalia. And I seem to remember being sat in a Costa and watching. I must have watched about 10 in a row, because I was genuinely drawn in. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But then what's nice is, as you said just then, that it was taken out of your hands when you moved across here anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, now I'm just going to be me. And I think maybe you having those years in front of camera meant that you probably built more of yourself, so you be more comfortable being just yourself.
Yeah,
on
definitely.
Camera. There's something to be said for when you're quiet in real life but big on big in production. I grew up with guys like, well, one of my radio heroes is Kenny Everett. Kenny Everett is, I don't know how familiar you are with Kenny Everett.
Yeah, I know Kenny Everett. Yeah,
massive character. But everybody who I've spoken to who met him in the industry says he was just very quiet. Just like kept himself to himself, didn't really have much to do. So it's quite a popular thing with creatives. So you're basically Kenny Everett, mate.
Oh, you can't say that.
I can.
He's rolling in his grave.
You're basically Ken. Let's move on to your second match for the DVD.
I'm going to go back to One Night Stand 2005, and I'm going to go for Mike Awesome versus Masato Tanaka. I had Sky by this time, so I had my mum record this, and watching it back the next day, I was like, that's the fat chick thriller. Easy for me to say. I didn't know he was this good, because my only weekly wrestling back when I was a kid was I used to have swimming club on Friday nights at 7:00, so I couldn't watch it as it happened on the television, but it was WCW Worldwide on Channel 5, so I used to record that hour and then come back and watch that, and that was my weekly wrestling done up until I had Sky. So I was getting into it when Mike Awesome was the fat chick thriller. And I didn't understand, obviously, because when you're a kid, you don't understand what these things really are. And looking back, it was obviously a massive disservice to Mike Awesome. But I watched that match, and then I went back and thought, I better look this guy up a bit more, because the internet was a thing you didn't have to plug in the wall anymore.
Yeah.
So you go back and watch him, and he's one of my favourite wrestlers, Mike Awesome. And that's not taking anything away from Masato Tanaka, because he played his part wonderfully in this match. And I understand that they had a million matches together where they beat each other up.
I was going to ask you whether you'd seen any of the other Awesome Tanaka matches.
This is the only one I've seen, but I know they did a couple of big ones in like the original ECW. But I'll have to watch them one day. I just don't have the time, do you, these days?
That's it. We're too busy watching wrestling to make time to watch wrestling. Some of the earlier matches they had were synonymous with chair shots, and
this one was as well.
Yeah,
it's right on Mr. Tanaka's head.
They haven't.
And what a head he had, by the way. Take Abdullah the Butcher and add a bit more.
Is there stuff that we watch from shows like this that at the time we're like, "Oi!" but we look back and go, well, actually,
it is hard to watch especially when it's that spot in the match where Awesome is just relentlessly on his head and Tanaka's hulking up, if you want, and it's like, that's not doing him any favors in the long run.
Makes you feel a little bit sick.
It does
when you watch him just battering them. So you went back and watched. I presumably you watched a lot of other ECW stuff as well. So then you could get like the full idea of the significance of One Night Stand.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. This was my first exposure to, no, it wasn't. I had a VHS about ECW that my mum took off us when she realised what it was. I don't know what it was, but I must have been about 9 or 10, and the local co-op had it on the shelf. So I got the ECW game for the PS1. I forget what it was called.
Anarchy Rules.
Anarchy Rules. I had, and I got the VHS as well. But she saw. Was it Beulah in a little skimpy outfit getting pile driven? That time, what was the famous one?
There was Tommy Dreamer does one on Beulah McGillicuddy. I think Beulah McGillicuddy gets a 3D that was quite infamous.
But she was wearing, she was skimpily dressed and whatnot. My mum walked in and saw that, and she was like, "Right, you're not having that anymore, 10-year-old Ross." So she took that away. But that was One Night Stand was my first real exposure to ECW, and it's just a magical night, innit? And again, this match especially, I know the rest of the night was the same, but this match especially is where the crowd played a big part. And I don't know if it's just me and my watching of professional wrestling, but the reaction of a crowd massively influences my perception of a match. If a crowd are making noises like the ECW crowd was and Hogan versus Rock, I'm making the same noises at home and just smiling, because I don't know what it is about wrestling pop, but it just make me smile and make me laugh.
Warm that comes from when a crowd really reacts to something,
and especially a standing ovation, which Awesome and Tanaka got here. But again, it's just the action that happened in this match. The power bomb off the apron to the floor, which didn't break Tanaka's neck somehow. Awesome doing the dive over the top ropes for a man of his size, and for some reason they haven't edited the line from Joey Styles off of the network version, as we're sat here in 2019, which is aged like milk.
It's not a great line. If you feel inclined, seek it out, but it's not the best line.
Suicide dive. It's a shame Awesome didn't succeed in taking his own life. Obviously he didn't know what was going to happen then.
No,
but we know what's happened now, so just take it off the network, will you? Because every time I hear it I go, oh.
You mentioned how a wrestling crowd makes a show. A big part of the storytelling of that is the commentators as well, which you should know. 2016 Commentator of the Year.
Yep.
WCPW.
Yep.
How did you come into commentating? How did all that come about? What's the story? I know you may have talked about it on the WCPW.
I wasn't on that one, we got back from WrestleMania 32, and then it was in just the talk in the office was they're going to start a wrestling promotion. And then immediately, I don't know if they were just winding me up, they're like, "Oh, the one you and Jack and Like were wrestling." And I was like, well, I'm out the door here, then see you later. I'm going to get a real job.
This is the second time that you're going to go, I quit.
But then you're just hearing stuff happen all the time. They're buying a ring and venues and this, that, and the other. And then it got to the point where everyone was getting involved. And I was like, do I want to? Because I was initially very much against the idea of getting involved because I don't want to be in the wrestling industry. I was just happy just, doing silly stuff on YouTube. I didn't want to take away stuff from people who wanted to do it because it just felt wrong. Because I know if I wanted to, I don't know if it applies to YouTube. If someone just waltzed in this office and started doing WTF moments and I'm there want to actually do it, I'd be pissed off. But it got to the point where everyone on the channel was involved, so I was like, wait, why the hell not? What's the worst that can happen? And the worst that could happen, Tom, was I was bad at commentary. but it was me and Miller, I think we were set up to fail because I'm not making excuses. It's just I was at the Euros for 2 weeks. And then on the Saturday, they were like, halfway through the holiday, they were like, can you come in? I got home on the Friday, like on the Saturday, can you come into the office 9 a.m. and just do the commentary for the first 4 or 5 shows? And I was sat there thinking, I'm going to have no time to do because I got back late at night and it was first thing in the morning, so I got no time to research people like, at the time, the Life Boatman and people like that, and people I hadn't heard of and hadn't seen wrestle. We didn't have any time to research. And then we were just sat down and told to commentate on these matches. And you saw the result. I'm not going to say anything about Miller. Miller did the best he could. I thought Miller was the far superior member of the pair. But we didn't have any time to prepare and didn't have any guidance and anything like that. But again, I shouldn't have been there to begin with. It's my biggest regret since doing this line of work is getting involved in that because I shouldn't have been there.
But I think it's one of those where it happened and it certainly hasn't slowed you down and nobody has sort of come at you for it. It's one of those where...
It was a few people didn't like it when it was going on. And from my perspective, I'm stood there. I should have thought this before accepting it, but I'm stood there taking the piss out of these commentators on Raw and SmackDown, and then I can't do it myself. And it's like, oh, well. Not the saying I could have done it anyway when I was taking the piss out of them to begin with, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm with you. But the fact that you were so willing just to go for it and throw yourself into it and see where it leads.
I mean, I did have me and Miller had a nice time doing it, but I'm not. From my perspective, my half of the commentary didn't come out very well at all. It didn't help the show. It didn't help anybody on the show at all. I went about it completely the wrong way. Because, when you're in that gimmick and you're like, oh, the world's about me. And it's not about me when it's commentating. It's about the wrestlers and making them seem better than they actually are and making the match seem more important than it is and stuff like that. And just completely missed the boat on that stuff. And I just regret getting involved.
How did it come to an end, though?
I think I was going to get pushed anyway, but we shot the first 4 or 5 up to the first pay-per-view in one go, and then at the end of that I was just I just saw the reaction and I had a feeling myself afterwards I'm just not comfortable doing this, and I just said to the guy, Mr. Dragon Eyes, I just said to him, I just don't want to do this anymore, and he was like, fair, we're just going to get Alex and Dave in to do it anyway. So I think it was just it would have happened anyway, but I was jumping before I was pushed.
You made the decision just to step away from it and go, that's fine. But obviously Simon did that. Was sort of Simon Miller's first foray into doing wrestling stuff, and he's now training to be a wrestler, and he's actually a wrestler now. Yeah,
he wrestles in a cave not long ago.
He was
in bloody Tokyo or something.
He's facing the Impact World Champion in a couple of days.
Is he?
Yeah, he's facing Sami Callihan.
Oh yes,
ridiculous.
He's going to get killed. All the best, Simon.
But if you could, if somebody came to you and asked you to get involved in doing something like that again, what would you do different? Would you do it?
I wouldn't do it again. Absolutely not.
Do you not feel like you've learned?
But sit back, with the power of hindsight, you realise what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. But again, I just don't think I've got the voice or the improv skills or the talent to do it well. I just wouldn't. But again, it was just, I would make it it's all about the wrestlers, isn't it? And it's all about feeding into the story. And I just completely missed the boat from that personally when I was doing it. And I was caught up in my own hype, I think, and I just regret it deeply.
But what I'd say is that, and again, I'm coming at it from somebody who only knew you initially through watching you through the screen, and you brought a lot of fun to that role. Despite the fact that you, as you say, you weren't happy about it, you brought a lot of joy to that.
We did have a nice time, me and Miller, in that studio that day, doing the cut scenes like the old prime. I'll never forget, we were told, Ross, you have to be like Bobby the Brain Heenan. Simon, you have to be like Gorilla Monsoon. Go and do it. And then me and Miller were like, And we're like just searching around the office for props. And I don't know if people watched it, but I used to use this beer hat that was in the office as like a deflection shield or something like that. It was just absolute nonsense. And it shouldn't have been on the air, but it was. And we had a nice time doing it, but from my perspective, I'd just rather I hadn't.
Which commentators do you love?
Jim Ross is the GOAT still, even though I'm a bit funny with his AEW stuff because when that Scorpio Sky ascension to the titles, he was fantastic. But again, then he moans about every single pinfall and how people aren't doing it right, and it's stuff like that really grates on you over time. I like it. Bobby the Brain Heenan. My perfect commentary team would be Brain and Ross. Ross at his pomp and Brain, because the wit of the guy and the stuff that he said, it never missed the mark. Like sometimes Corey Graves tries to drop stuff like that, and then sometimes it doesn't quite hit for me, but sometimes it does. But Corey is, probably the best. Is he? No, he's not. Nigel's better than. What am I saying here? Anyway, my favourite commentary duo though was Ross and Heyman from the Attitude Era, like the stuff we actually got to see. But yeah, my ideal duo would be Brain and Jim.
In terms of mileage that you got from him, I was hoping you would say John Bradshaw Layfield in there somewhere.
He wasn't as bad as he used to make out, was he? It just used to, I think it's fun.
It's brilliant.
I like to think, when I'm doing those WT, I like to think I'm doing it with a wink and a nudge, and people aren't like, unless it's Shane McMahon, because that legitimately did really annoy me for the longest time. I like to think people realise I'm doing it with a wink and a nudge. He didn't, because he blocked me. And a member of the WCPW roster told me that he would have seen it, and I used to get passed around the locker room from time to time, people going, look at this fat man taking the piss out of you. How do you feel about that?
Really? So we know that he saw a lot of the John O'Clock stuff.
Yeah.
There was a point where I genuinely thought you were going to get an interaction with him, and I was spurring you on through the screen.
I was avoiding that at all costs because he would have lamped me.
Well, you were close. You were very close at SmackDown that one time when I could swear you were taking pictures of yourself behind him.
I was
getting closer and closer, and I was like going, "Come on, this is it. We're going to see Ross and JBL in the same shot at the same time. This is going to be the moment."
I was so hesitant doing that as well, not just because it was in public and I had to dress up as the king and whatnot and all that malarkey, but fans taking away from the show and just making it about themselves is something I don't like anyway. So when I found you've got to do it, Ross, it's too good of a chance to turn down. And your bosses are saying that to you, like, I'm gonna have to do it, aren't I? But I hated doing it as well. I'm just like, I want to just sit there and enjoy the wrestling, because when you go there live, you actually can. Then I had to go home and watch all the same stuff again and then pick it apart. And it's just like, I wanted to enjoy it, but I was just on edge. It's like, I've got to get up and try and make myself seen by this man who might lamp me. He would kill me as well. Just kill me in the face.
I mean, he might have been in a good mood that day. Well, you know what? The world will never know.
No.
Favourite wrestler that you've ever met? Obviously you get close to meeting JBL, but some you've...
Yeah.
I know you met Jim Ross, didn't you?
Jim, he was a lovely man. Cody Rhodes was fantastic. We did wrestler shots with him, Undertaker shots, and I've never felt more manly in my life.
Doing shots with Cody.
There was a whole group of people, and the wrestler shot. I don't know if it's Mr. Perfect, I think, was the guy who invented this or something. You get a shot of whiskey, knock it back, and then gargle for as long as you can. And I don't know what it does, but it does something which makes you effed up even more than it would do normally. And so obviously Cody was doing this, but I don't think he realised that I really like whiskey. And I lasted the longest. I beat him, and I was like, I feel me. And then we went out and I had a few pints with Cody Rhodes, and he was just a fantastic man. He called me King once. He's like, "Hey, King, can you take a picture?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can, Cody Rhodes, you can." But yeah, people like Martin Kirby was always... Primate especially. Primate got really involved with that stuff back in the day when he didn't have to, but I think he saw how it would have benefited him, and I had a lot of fun doing stuff with him. Some that didn't make the air, unfortunately, just didn't get released, and it was fantastic stuff. People like that. I'm trying to think off the top of my head here. Ospreay was a nice man to talk to, even though he didn't follow me back on Twitter, which I'm still gutted about to this day, because that pointless stuff matters to me. I've not really had a bad experience with a wrestler, to be honest with you, the ones I've met.
Would you say the gargling whiskey with Cody Rhodes was sort of your ultimate wrestling WTF moment?
Yes.
For Ross?
Because I beat a wrestler at a wrestling thing. I don't know if I should say this on camera.
Yeah.
But it's out there. Well, I really like whiskey. Whiskey's nice.
You like whiskey,
yeah.
And you like Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
So it's a happy combination of the two.
He might not like me after saying that on camera. I don't know if I should. I'll ask Adam after this.
I'm sure you'll be fine with it. What's he going to do? Oh, Ross didn't put me over in a whiskey gargling contest. I think Cody's got bigger fish to fry these days. I would hope so.
He might do. He might be a bit busy.
Before we get to your final match, the other thing you're allowed to take on the desert island is a movie that you like, an album that you love, and a luxury item that you couldn't do without.
See, the movie one was tough because I was thinking, oh, this is wrestling centric. I've got to pick a wrestling movie, and
Ready to Rumble.
I absolutely love Ready to Rumble.
Oh, really?
I
said it as a joke.
Again, it was another one where it was a different pal at home at Skybox office, and they taped it for me, and I took it home, and people crap on it all the time, but it had so many highlights. A diamond upside down is a pussy being the highlight, which is, I still say on video. MJF did it when he was walking out with DDP. That stuff like that. Oh, MJF, I tip me hat to you. But yeah, Ready to Rumble was a fantastic film. But Goal 1, isn't it? That's the one.
Goal.
Oh,
wow. Okay.
Goal 1.
Is it now called Goal 1?
Yeah, because there was a Goal 2 and 3 and maybe 4.
Oh, there was loads, wasn't there? Like
yeah,
Goal 4.
he left Newcastle to join Real Madrid, and then I think there was one about Mexico in the World Cup and stuff. But just seeing my beloved Newcastle United on film, and it was a fantastic.
For those who don't know the plot of Goal, please explain Goal.
So it's a guy who has a rough upbringing, and he kicks the soccer balls, and he's trying to get to one country. It's been a while since I've seen it, to be honest with you, but he tries to get from one country to another. He's scouted, this talent scout for Newcastle United, his Scottish man, and then he ends up playing for Newcastle, works his way up from the reserves to the first team. There's a fantastic moment where they use actual real-life footage from the Premier League. Lauren Robert takes a free kick left-footed, but it cuts to Santiago Munez, who takes the same free kick but right-footed. Stuff like that. It was a fantastic film. Shearer's on there. I love Alan Shearer. It's just a wholesome time had by all, unless you don't like Newcastle.
On the subject of that, of like using real-life footage for other purposes, do you remember Dream Team?
Yes.
And Harchester United.
Yes.
Harchester United.
Yes.
And I used to watch it with my younger brother, who's a big football fan, and he could tell me at what point the grounds changed, because they would sometimes use multiple stadium in the same shot. Yeah. Like, he's passed the ball there, and now they're in Highbury. He's passed it there, and now they're in Old Trafford.
Yeah.
And the intricate detail to colour all the shirts in. Like that, beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
But as you can probably tell by my answer there, I'm not much of a film guy.
No, Goal 1 is a film. You're a football. Were you a football fan before a wrestling fan?
Football is my main passion in life, which is, it's sort of handy because I did dabble in like football journalism, but I realised I'm too much of a fan to do it well. I'm too like emotionally invested in stuff to really. And because wrestling is still a massive passion, obviously because I do this as a living, it's a massive passion. But I'm able to sort of remove myself and look at things objectively, which is a weird thing to say because I do have my favourites and I do like to talk about them a lot in WTF moments and stuff like that. But from an analytical perspective, being sort of like, with it not being my main passion in life, and that feels weird to say because I've sort of dedicated my last 5 years to it all, it sort of helped us do this job. If you know what I'm saying.
Keeping it at a distance, I think, is important. I think, I used to watch a lot of wrestling at home. I don't so much anymore because now
you need to get away from it, don't you?
You do need a little escape from it, otherwise you just do not switch off from it.
No.
So you said you dabbled in football journalism. Is journalism's where your background?
Yeah, I've got a degree in journalism. Believe it or not.
Believe it or not. I do tell people there are actual journalists here, and sometimes they don't believe me.
I honestly, I don't see myself as a journalist in this line of work. No, we're just clowns, aren't we? We're just clowns on YouTube. We make a fool of ourselves for the joy of others.
I think to the extent of when the camera's on you do. But I think what a lot of people probably don't realise is you write a lot for the website as well.
Yeah.
So like a lot of the news articles, which are just, here is the news that's happening. Because sometimes we'll do videos and people will go, can you just tell us the news? And I normally go to the website. It's all there. Like, you can just go and read it there.
Most of it's there, but my times with this extra WTF of week now, my time is limited.
It's suddenly you've taken on a lot more of that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard thing to juggle. But yeah, if you do not like the news the way it's presented on video, it is on the site.
That's on me.
But no,
100%.
What are you meant to do? You meant to just literally sit there and go, Seth Rollins tweeted something bad today.
I think sometimes
you got to put on a show.
That's it. Some people, I think, just read the news to me. I've seen a few channels because I find that I look at a lot more at what other wrestling YouTubers do, and there are some where they just in like a minute read the news bit. And I was
That's not no.
yeah, it's there. But...
People watch us for enjoyment. So if we're not having a good time on camera, people aren't having a good time off the camera watching us. And I think, like when me and you do the news, it's an absolute farce, and I think it's great.
yeah,
It just goes off on many tangents.
But that's what's nice is that whichever combos do the news, it's a bit like. Do you remember the Simpsons arcade game?
No.
Right, there was a Simpsons arcade game in the past, and you had to choose 2 different members of the Simpsons family to play as in the game. Now, whichever combo you chose, there were different moves. So, like if you were Lisa and Marge, there was a combo where you jumped on the shoulders. If there was Homer and Bart, there was one where Homer would swing Bart around. So what I'm saying is, the news at Cultaholic is a bit like the Simpsons arcade game. Is that whichever combo you get,
bit different each time.
It's a bit different every single time.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you check in for the news, you're just going to be annoyed. Because it takes ages for us to get to it sometimes.
No, I fully I agree with the way the news is presented on our channel, because doing it the other way is just boring.
Yeah.
It is just, you want a bit more, don't you? You want a bit of entertainment and have a laugh. Yeah.
Have a bit of spice in your
You can't have a laugh when someone's just going, here is what happened, in a monotone voice.
It's true. Album. An album that you take on a desert island with you.
It's ABBA Gold, isn't it?
Oh, mate! Nice!
Take out Dancing Queen from that, because I don't like Dancing Queen as a song. But that is the greatest album ever made. And I know it's a bit of a compilation.
Yeah,
so it might be.
Very Alan Partridge. What's your favourite Beatles album? I like the best of the Beatles.
I know it's a cop-out, but it's just, apart from Dancing Queen, it is a relentless string of hits.
Wow.
And you can't go wrong with ABBA Gold apart from Dancing Queen.
Were you brought up on ABBA?
No.
My
music taste stopped being current in about 2006. And ever since then, it's just been looking back decades. And discovering ABBA was a highlight of my life.
Did you so you stumbled across ABBA then?
Yeah, I don't know how, I don't know where, but I did, and I'm happy I did.
Just a lot of times, a lot of our music taste is determined by our parents.
Yeah.
Initially, and then you kind of build on the foundation of that. So your folks, no one in your family was an ABBA fan.
I'm guessing my mum might have been, but I never really listened to music. When I was in the car with her, Metro Radio was on.
Nice.
Sorry to say that. Is that the enemy?
Hey, it's all peace. It's peacetime now in my world.
Tony Horn in the morning. That was the school drive thing.
Big fan of Tony. I get messages from Tony Horn.
Is he still on the air?
Last I heard, he works for a station called Rossendale Radio, where he basically is a director of this independent station. He wanted to get back to his roots of just doing sort of radio that he loves in a place that he loves. And he's a big fan of the Valley, and he does a show there that I've dipped in quite a few times. And yeah, Tony Horn is very much a staple part of radio in the Northeast.
Yeah,
he
was on for years when I was going to see. I think he must have been on my entire school life, getting the lift to the.
You have had Alan Robson your entire life as well. If it's
Night Owls.
Northeast
I
radio.
Delivered pizza to him.
No way.
Yeah, I had a gap year where I couldn't work out what I wanted to do, so I went and worked for a pizza place.
No way.
So I was a delivery boy. Boulevard's Pizza in Morpeth. It's delightful.
Boom.
Best pizza in Morpeth. Yeah, but I delivered to him and Steve Bruce's house, but Steve Bruce wasn't there. It was his wife.
No, I was gonna say.
But my mum works for the council, so she knew that he bought Kevin Keegan's old house in Tramwell Woods in Morpeth. And you opened the door and it had like Manchester United shirts in the porch door. So I was like, this must be Steve Bruce's house. When he was manager of Sunderland, this was.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah.
Are they the most famous people you've ever delivered pizza to?
Yes, Alan Robson and Steve Bruce.
That's impressive. Some people would wait their whole lives as a pizza delivery person to deliver to names like that.
Used to love Alan Robson on the night.
Did you deliver the pizza to Metro? Because I can imagine him going on there going, hello, can you send me pineapple pizza?
So this is in Morpeth.
With a ghost in it.
And then some old biddy would just pop out the box and, Alan, I've got this neighbour who I don't like. But no, he lived in Morpeth, on the outskirts of Morpeth, which is a little town about 15 miles north of here where I grew up. So he lived on the outskirts and it was just in his house. Nice big house he had, though. Did
he wear a hat when he came to the door?
No, he had his receiver in full view.
Amazing. He is a radio legend. And I didn't quite excited about
I didn't realise until after that he was the bloke who presented Alan Shearer on the stage that day. That's Alan Robson. I didn't.
In goal?
No, when Shearer signed for Newcastle in '96, he's the guy going, here's Alan Shearer. I couldn't put a face to the name for many years, but I realised I did not expect Alan Robson to look like that.
He's an he always he's a surprise when you meet the Flashing Blade for the first time.
It ended recently, didn't it?
It did indeed, a couple of weeks ago. So now it's just on a Sunday night now.
Is it?
It was honest. It was one of those things where the radio industry has changed so much in the last sort of 18 months. Hence why I'm here. It was so. Do you know what is Alan Robson's run on radio? 48 years, I think it was, like a legit 48 years. And after the first two, people were going, he'll finish any time now. After the first two, they were like, he's done soon. He's done soon. And like a career like that, we will never see the likes of. He is basically the Undertaker of radio anywhere. Like a streak that was just unstoppable. And now it's over. It's like we'll never see the likes of that again.
He could be his older, smaller brother when you look at them when they were young.
Very much could be, actually. They look very much like it.
Just a smaller package.
But ABBA is your album.
It was closely, I inched out Vinnie Jones's respect. Vinnie Jones has an album. Vinnie Jones covers.
Really?
Vinnie Jones is from like 2002, maybe. Vinnie Jones covers the hits. Bad Leroy Brown, tunes of that ilk, and Vinnie Jones has got pipes on him.
Really?
Big pipes he can sing. Was he on the X Factor recently? That's celebrity. I say celebrity because I watched the first one with Wallace, and I didn't recognise a single person on there.
Yeah, they use the word celebrity quite. I think it's because there's just so many people that you would class as a celebrity now.
Jenny Off the Chase, I knew her. I knew the rugby players, and I knew your guy who did the Michael Jackson documentary from back in the day.
I can't remember his name now.
Yeah, whatever his name was.
But I think because there's so many celebrities now in Bunny Rabbit Ears.
Yeah.
Like there'll be people who watch this who will class like yourself like that. It's like,
could you imagine?
I know. It's weirder things have truly happened. They truly have. But it's a very strange time. But Vinnie Jones is a potential runner for the album.
Oh my god!
I didn't even know he did an album. Is it like a crooner? I imagine it's like a crooner.
It's jazz. Is it jazz? It's like big band music.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's just him in a big band. I can imagine wearing a trilby with some shades when he was singing, maybe a cigar as well. Fantastic album.
And a luxury item is the other thing.
A luxury item.
Ask of you.
I would take a bed.
Nice.
Because sand can be comfortable if it's sculpted the right way. But I like a bed. Bed is the best place in the world, isn't it?
Do you sleep well?
I sleep well. Now I've got a routine. For a long old while, I did struggle. But now you got a routine. You just got to wake up at the same time every day for like a week, and then you've got a routine sorted. So 6:30 now. Boom! I'm out of bed.
Oh wow! So that start of your morning is just 6:30.
6:30 out of bed. Have a multivitamin. Have a Barocca. This is new me. I've lost a bit of weight recently. I'm changing my life.
You are looking good for it.
Thank you.
You are looking good. Is there a moment where you went? Because I went through something similar last year. Is there a moment where you went? That's enough now. This is going on far enough.
This is going to sound awfully soppy, but getting the girlfriend changed it. Because I've been massively depressed for like 6 years, and then she changed it. And it's a sad thing. I know it's a weird thing to say because I'm jovial on camera and whatnot, but yeah, it's not been a good time.
No. Yeah. It's you know what? I think a lot of times people just assume that you're always the way you are, and like they can't imagine you being anything other than like upbeat and happy and joyful, and it's like
no, I just used to eat myself out of sadness. And then be more sad because I was really fat.
Was there? You know what? We laugh and we joke, but it is a vicious cycle.
Yeah,
it is a vicious cycle when suddenly it's emotional eating, which is when obviously when no matter what your mood, it lifts it, it brings it down, it brings you up, whatever. Eating is the solution, and when that is the solution, that is a problem.
Yeah,
when I can count the times where I've gone, I'm feeling really sad. I'm going to go to that burrito place in town.
Being full will make me feel happier.
Yeah.
That satisfying full feeling. But then you wake up the next day, I weigh 2 pounds more. Then you do it the next day and you wake up 2 days' time, I weigh 4 pounds more.
It's the search for fulfillment. Yeah. And you're seeking a physical fulfillment as opposed to an emotional one.
Yeah.
So, but meeting Wallace is what changed that.
Yes, big time.
Did she encourage you to do it, or was it more the case of you wanted to do it for you at that point?
Much the second. She just made me happier. And I was like, well, I could probably sort myself out now. And I've tried to. Getting there slowly. But, yeah.
Is she looking after you and stuff?
Yes.
You're looking after each other, I would assume.
Yes. Very much a back and forth thing.
It absolutely needs to be. Well, it's lovely.
Didn't expect this to go in that direction.
Do you know, I think it's important that sometimes that we bring stuff like this to light because, you know, I get it on Twitter where people go, "You're always happy." I'm like, actually, I'm not always happy.
You're happy when the camera's rolling because you sort of have to be, because if you're sad on camera, as I said before, if you're sad on camera and not enjoying yourself, who's going to be happy watching that unless it's someone who just deeply hates you and F them anyways?
It's tough in this job, and I'm learning it. Well, you guys have known it forever, but I'm learning it in the sense that, you know, if you're not mentally in the right headspace that day, and you look at the comments, it's probably going to make everything worse.
See, I think
you're going to be rushing to the burrito place, basically.
I think you're different to me in that, because people can say whatever they want to me. I'm very much of the opinion, like, if I don't really, and this might sound like a backhand thing to say, but I don't value your opinion if you don't know me, and if I don't really know who you are. Like, I only value the opinion of people like I want to hear the opinion of. If that makes sense. The YouTube comments never ever have bothered me. Like, maybe wanted to, like, I got called biased the other day towards AEW. I thought, oh, there's the definite AEW bias on these WTF moments. And I was just sat there thinking, the main roster, like this week's Raw, apart from the screwy finishes, was really good in places. Like the matches, the wrestling was good. So I said it was good, apart from the screwy finishes. Yeah. AEW Dynamite has been consistently good all the way through from the start. So I say it's good. And people call me biased because I say that the bad things are bad and the good things are good. I never really. That's the only sort of thing. Stuff like that's the only stuff that gets to me.
The bias that they're reaching for is confirmation bias. Is they're looking for you to think a certain way, and once you give the slightest inclination that you think a certain way, then they're going to bite down on it. Yeah. I've been called. There was one video in which I was both called anti-WWE and a WWE fanboy. How am I both? But that's people reaching for, like, they've got an assumed opinion on you, and all they need is like a tiny little crumb of evidence to back that up. That's all they need, you know. That's probably what's happened there. But yeah, you've got the right idea in the sense that you don't look at them.
Like, I do appreciate every bit of feedback I get, and like I do sometimes let it affect the way I present things. If I see overwhelmingly people don't like something, I stop doing it, because that would be stupid not to listen to the audience. But when people are just insulting you, do it all you want. It's not going to bother me.
I find, and Alex has called me, my good lady's called me the troll whisperer. Because there's a few times where I've just had somebody say something horrible about me on Twitter, and I've just said to them, "Why do you think that's okay to say?" And they'll go, "Oh, because I disagreed with what you said here." I said, "What? So therefore I should kill myself because you disagree with me?" I didn't mean it like that. I'm a big fan. I'm really sorry. Like, it's almost, and you can watch the walls come down, and I spend far too much. The other night, there was somebody who came at me for something, and I was replying back to them, and I had a little moment where I went, "I've spoke to this person more tonight than I have my mum in the last couple of days." And that's where the balance is wrong.
Yeah, just you need to stop replying to them. Just let them.
Yeah.
If I think, like, if I reply, if someone tweets, yeah, because all of us in here will get the same stuff. We just don't reply to it.
Yeah.
We just bash, like, see you later. You're just validating their thought of tweeting that in the first place, aren't you? Just if they're tweeting it just to a brick wall and you're not responding, they're not going to do it again, are they?
It's weird.
That's my thing.
Yeah, you're right. I always just come down the aisle of they're hurt, and I want to find out why they're hurting.
You're too caring, Tom.
Very odd. Okay, so your luxury item. We've done the
bed.
Movie. Oh, the bed.
The bed. We're in there. The bed's
cool.
in.
Oh, cool. So we've done that bit. That's it. So we just sleep better. So therefore,
I'm intrigued. What have people said before for a luxury item?
Previous luxury items. Now, weirdly, this is the first one in a long while that hasn't been toilet related, because Colt Cabana wanted to take a bidet to keep.
When you're surrounded by the sea.
I know, right? It is. James Storm wanted to bring toilet paper.
When you're surrounded by the sea.
And I think it was... did Sugar Dunkerton want to bring a toilet?
When you're surrounded by the sea.
When you're surrounded by the sea. Exactly. You think the same way I do. You go, why do you want to waste your luxury item on a toilet when there's a perfectly good ocean that animals are already going in? Yeah. Join in there, as long as you don't get the ones that crawl up your whatever.
River Monsters with Jeremy Wade. He explored that.
You don't want Jeremy Wade crawling up
there. There was a fish that went up the urethra.
Oh, jeez.
That's the term.
That program made me feel all kinds of sad and put me off baths for a long while. So this has been ace. Before we go, we got one more match to put into the DVD. So we've had Hogan, Rock, WrestleMania 18. We have had your first foray into ECW, which was Masato Tanaka versus Mike Awesome. What's your third match there?
It's Tank Abbott versus Big Al from Super Bowl 2000.
It's scissors.
It's
He's
the
trying
match.
to cut his beard.
It was fantastic on the recent Full Gear pay-per-view when Awesome Kong whacked out that knife. I was getting flashbacks to that match. So I don't know if people have seen it. That was a leather jacket on a pole match. The winner would get this leather jacket, which meant something for some reason. And at the end of the match,
wasn't it like in the like that Anarchy program, Sons of Anarchy.
So Tank Abbott wins. He sends Big Al tumbling to the floor. He whaps out a knife, and then the camera pans away and then cuts to a wide shot with the insinuation being that he's taking the knife to Big Al's neck/face. But anyway, that's not the actual third pick. My third pick is I wanted to pick a modern one just to show that modern wrestling's good. Because I think a lot of people overlook that fact. So I'm going to go for Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne from TakeOver Chicago.
Nice.
Just because of the overwhelming feeling that I was just overcome with afterwards, and that was just pride. Because Britain, England, go on the England, we did some good things overseas and American people. Because I just watched the match back there, and while the reception for Pete and Tyler wasn't mute, it wasn't as big as it was for other people on that card, and understandably so, because relatively back then in terms of like WWE, they were brand new, just about. We had the tournament the year before, but in terms of like being on programming, like WWE programming, they were relatively new. But by the end of the match, 2 standing ovations later, again, it was the crowd playing. I don't know if I put too much stock in the crowd, but the crowd really does make or break a wrestling match for me. If I just sat there in silence, I don't enjoy it anywhere near as much as a crowd that makes noise, and that might just seem too simplistic to say.
No, I think as we say, the crowd reaction is important, and I think that I seem to remember the crowd being overwhelmingly pro Bruiserweight at the start, the whole Bruiserweight chant that resonated around the arena. And again, it's that sense of pride because these are our guys.
Yeah.
Our side of the tracks.
Yeah, we're good as well.
Yeah, it's a handy reminder, and I take pride because they're not only the England guys, they're West Midlands boys. They're from the rep in the Midlands.
They probably planned that match out when they came out of the womb.
Yes,
because they came out of the same womb, Trent Seven's womb.
When was the first time? Do you remember many British wrestlers when you started watching wrestling? Was there anybody that you remember that you resonated with?
I'll tell you, it's a funny one. I was watching our career retrospective on Regal recently, which is a very good video. You should go and watch it. And Regal was the one for me. It was the perfect example of when you're a kid, you just don't understand. Because I used to think Regal's coming out, he's a bit rubbish, him. I just don't like, But you look back on everything Regal did, especially like the Commissioner era. That's when I was getting into wrestling. Unbelievable. Regal is a man you appreciate more with age, and you can like fully understand what he was doing and why he was doing the things he was doing. But he was the main, in terms of WWF at the time. It was just him, wasn't it? And then latterly Dave Taylor came along with him. I'm trying to think of more British. Paul Burchill, but it wasn't really alluded to that he was British.
No,
he was a pirate. Yeah. Katie Lee was there. That was another one. Trying to think of more British people. The Bulldog.
It was a very lacking.
Did he count as British towards the end? He was Canadian, wasn't he?
I think he was. Well, if you listen to some of the stuff from SmackDown, he sounds Welsh, apparently. Very odd. As a British wrestling fan, do you remember the first time you went to a British indie wrestling show?
A British indie wrestling show? This is going to sound awful, but it would have been WCPW.
That's fair enough.
Because, as I say, wrestling, I was out of wrestling from about 2006 until the Royal Rumble of 2012.
What brought you back in?
It was when I went to uni, and I didn't expect this to happen, but people on my course and who I lived with, they used to watch wrestling. So it was, just the pay-per-views. We would all get together with a crate and have a good time. And that was my way back into wrestling, even though, the 2012 Rumble isn't really one that people look back on with much fondness. And it just sort of spiraled from there. And I got back into podcasts, Jim Ross and Austin and Jericho. And then from there, I started watching a bit more. And then from there, What Culture were hiring a football writer. And I was like, I like wrestling as well. That could be my secondary thing. And it all spiraled from there. So I was very much removed from it until 2012, dipping my toe back in until about 2014. And then when WCPW started, that was my first dive back into... Because I'd been to a few WWE house shows. I took a sign to one. that aged terribly. I
one?
put it on Instagram and Twitter recently. It's on one side, it was the 2004 WrestleMania Revenge Tour, and it was where Taker came back. So on one side, it was an awfully drawn glove of Taker's with He's Back on one side, like the 1996 purple glove popping up out the Buried Alive set. And on the other side, it was a big picture of the Atkins diet book, big orange book, and it said, Big Show needs Atkins, which aged ironically.
Yeah, because no one does Atkins anymore.
So I was stood there. It was a big A1 sign, double-sided though. I was very proud of it.
How cool is that, though, from the day where we would take signs to house shows?
Yeah.
Especially
when
communicated.
Newcastle was mental. Mental, the WWE ones. It's not so much the same these days because, I don't know what's changed, but something's changed where people aren't as outgoing in these public settings anymore, which is a weird thing for me to say after what we've talked about recently. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Definitely back when we were young, people were more like, wah, than they are today. I don't know if that's just a thing I've picked up on in life.
It's more, I think a lot of places, like a lot of outdoor entertainment places, certainly fight to get people through the doors more than they used to. I think because nowadays, like there is so much entertainment indoors that a lot of people don't. Like, you've got access to pretty much every piece of music ever written. You've got access to every film ever made in some way, shape, or form. As wrestling fans, and I said this recently, we live in a great age now where there is so much new wrestling that is fighting for our attention, and on a Wednesday night, literally fighting for our attention. And even if you don't like it, access to pretty much everything that's ever happened in wrestling is a couple of clicks away.
Yeah.
Why would you want to go out? But all that is there. So was it the Newcastle Revenge Tour you went to?
Yes. Tally West Arena it was called back then.
Oh.
It's not called that anymore. I think it's the Utilita Arena.
Briefly, the Metro Radio Arena.
Oh, was that for years?
Yeah.
Aye. But yeah, I was there. Big Show was against Cena in the main event. I touched both their hands. I was on the tiered bit up the side, and then the main event came in, and it was just a free-for-all. People were running everywhere. So I was like, what would I have been, 12? Yeah, 12. I was like, I'm getting down there. Touched both their hands on the way out. Fantastic scenes.
Have you seen anybody that was on that show? Have you got to meet them since? In this job or other jobs?
I don't think so. I can only remember two matches. It was the main event, and then it was Nydia versus Jamie Noble in a blindfold match.
Right.
And the pay-per-view before this WrestleMania Revenge Tour, or a couple of pay-per-views before, they had did the exact same match, step for step for step. So me and my pal, Adam, Mr. Joaquin Phoenix.
Rather than being in the Joker, mate. Amazing.
We were sat there calling the match a move ahead. And we freaked out I remember this woman sat next to me there, and she was freaked out. She didn't understand why. But they literally did the same match they did on pay-per-view a month or two before. So it was they were the two matches, and Rikishi danced. I never met Rikishi, though. I had a dream about Rikishi once, though.
Oh, really?
You know those dreams where you're struggling to do something? It's something really simple, but you can't do it.
Yeah.
One of those dreams.
Sometimes when you're on the ground and you can't get up.
Yeah, one of those. So we're on a beach, and I was gonna shoot it straight to hell with Rikishi, but I couldn't put my chair in the sand and have it just sit there. I used to sit and fall off and then get back up and put the chair down. And Rikishi was like, "Oh, come on, man, I've got stuff to do for The Rock." I didn't say that.
I'm going to go run over Stone Cold Steve Austin.
And it got to the point where the chair were in the ground. I sat down. I was like, right, welcome to Straight to Hell. And Rikishi, I've got to go, man. It was one of those dreams. I was like, So I'm dreaming about Rikishi. This wasn't too long ago, this.
No, they're insecurity dreams. They are. I've had a few of them where like you find yourself like normally it's getting to work. Normally if you spend too much time at work, then you start having the I'm struggling to get to work dream.
Yeah.
Which is normally because you spent too much time there and you're panicking about it. But I get that. But and what's nice is you mentioned Jamie Noble and Nydia going move for move as they did a couple of months before. The whole idea of, playing the same match as opposed to playing to the crowd, which leads us back to our first choice, which was Hogan Rock, which leads us like a nice Robert Ross style way to end the interview.
I was going to say, should I not say a bit more about why I like Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne?
I think you absolutely should.
Pacing.
Okay.
I watched it back this morning. The pacing of this match, because you'd think we're two young whippersnappers like them, it would just be ba 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 bam, flip 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 flip, all that malarkey, non-stop go. But they did a few flips, and then Pete Dunne broke them down. And they did a few flips, and then Pete Dunne broke them down. And it was just, is it the perfect match? I don't think Meltzer gave... I don't know why I even brought that up. I don't care about Meltzer's ratings. I don't understand why that's news. It's just a man's opinion. Anyway, that should have got 5 stars, if not more. I thought it was... Jim Ross was calling it as well before Jim Ross fell out with the pinfall technique of every wrestler going. The crowd, just everything came together for that match. It was wonderful. But the pride of them coming in and, they got a good reaction, but by the end of the match, it was unbelievable. Just that journey through the match was unbelievable. Yeah,
pacing, as you say, is important because I think a lot of people give grief to NXT because what seems to have happened is that since the launch of the USA Network, we've kind of seen the birth of this sort of NXT style in which you skip Act 1 and you go straight to Act 2. Like bell sounds, drop kick out the corner, away we go. You don't do WTF for NXT
because it's too hard.
Because it's too difficult.
I used to do it back in the olden days, and I would really, really struggle to get a video that was longer than 2 minutes. And I'm finding that now happening with AEW. Just struggling to get a video that people might want to watch, and just because if you see WTF moments 2 minutes, you think, oh, what's the point?
Yeah.
But good wrestling's a good thing, but not when you have to nitpick at it. Which is, I don't know why. I'm the only person.
You made a rod for your own back.
I'm the only person that must moan about that thing in the world ever.
You made a rod for your own back doing that one.
Yeah.
Did the right guy win at Dunn & Bate?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because Tyler Bate, I don't know if it was just a bit of a disconnect for me, but it was literally just he would walk out and go. He would do the Queen's Wave, and that was just about it. Unbelievable wrestler, but like in terms of a character, I think Pete Dunne back then had a lot more. Being the bruiserweight and all that malarkey, just felt a lot more. And obviously he had the longest reign in the history of belts, didn't he? After that, 600 odd days or something like that.
Phenomenal run as the UK champion.
But yeah, I was a lot more invested in Pete Dunne back then than I was Tyler Bate, and I'd probably say I was now. As NXT must be as well, because he's got the number. As we're sat here on Wednesday, the something of November,
20th of November.
He's got that number one contenders match on Saturday now at the Takeover, so they've obviously got a lot more stock in him than they have Tyler right now, and I mirror that.
Do you watch much of the UK product still?
No, the NXT UK.
Yeah,
I watch the Takeovers.
Yeah,
but I don't watch the weekly.
Why is it a time thing, or is it just a lack of inclination?
It's a bit of both. Yeah. The message WWE put out is that they just do not give a toss about this thing. The Raw recently being a prime example where they were used as jobbers, and I didn't like. And Jerry Lawler didn't know who Volta was, and was saying, "Oh, Vic, you know him? Is that Flash Morgan or Flash Gordon?" Stuff like that. It just makes you, as a fan, it makes you think, oh, if the people working for the company don't care, why the hell should I care? But more for me, it's that thing we were talking about before, where you need to get away from wrestling in your private time.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it just gets on top of you. So I watched the takeovers because there was the second takeover? The one in the summer was the main event was unbelievable with Volta and Tyler. That was an unbelievable
one of
match.
My favourite matches of the decade, actually.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You always feel weird when you say like a match of the decade is one that happened this year. You almost feel like you worry that people will think you're a fraud in some way, shape, or form. But if it's a great match and it happened in the decade, it's that one. There.
It was such a beautiful thing though, because it was like really basic in its concept. It was David versus Goliath, the underdog versus the big guy. Nigel was the one who made the match for me with his commentary because it was just unbelievable. Him getting excited really does make something seem bigger than it actually is. But yeah, the takeovers I do definitely watch because there was a takeover before. How many takeovers have they had now? 3? 2.
Blackpool, Cardiff, Blackpool 2. This will be the third coming up.
Right. So there was one where they crowned the tag team champions. Nobody was, well, from my perspective, nobody was excited heading into that show. But I watched that show and it was unbelievable. So it's just, it's time and it's just no real, WWE don't give me a reason to watch that. I don't know if it's
no, it's true. No, I think the best person on WWE TV outside of NXT UK that's put over NXT UK is a guy who knows the product, which is Nigel McGuinness. And when Kaylee Ray turned up on NXT, the American NXT, as the last member of the War Games team, he made it feel like, oh my God, they're in a lot of trouble.
And that's what Jerry Lawler should have been doing as well.
Exactly. Because it frustrates me when the commentators don't sell what we're seeing. You know, on a scale like that, like you basically you do yourself out of making money.
I thought that was the point, to bring them on to showcase these people and think, oh, I might want to see more of Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews.
Why would I want to see a guy whose name Jerry Lawler can't remember?
Yeah.
You know, it's that whole thing.
But time is the main issue. And I'm sat here 3 or 4 sometimes 5 days a week now, just watching wrestling and picking it apart. And while people at home I realise I'm very lucky to do what I do for a living, it does become tiresome. Yeah. After a while, so you do need. I personally do need that break just to get away from it all. Just when you come back to work the next day, you think, "Oh, let's watch some wrestling. Let's watch some wrestling."
It's one of those things when it's a passion thing as well. So it's getting that work-life balance, right? And it's something that I've really struggled with. Is finding those times to go. That's the end of my work day now. I'm just going to put that there. I'm going to go and spend the evening with Alex. I'm going to go do something that's not wrestling. What do you do that's not wrestling to chill out?
Go out and eat food. Walk. I've started walking a lot now.
Yeah, you've got a Fitbit you're wearing.
You inspired that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I remember speaking to you. You're like, oh, I want to lose weight, but I can walk 10,000 steps a day. And I was like, oh, well, I could do that as well. So I've started walking 10,000 steps a day. I make sure I do that every day.
Honoured.
What do I do? Go out and drink on the weekends. Like, week is now disciplined. That's when you have your Baroccas and your vitamins.
Yeah.
Weekend you let loose and then you come back.
Hell for leather.
Yeah. It'll be a gradual thing, but I'm going to get thin. I'm going to get thin. That's spend time with the woman when she's up here. Yeah. Boring stuff.
No, just be happy. That's all it's about, isn't it? That's all it's about. It's just being happy.
And you got to take it for granted now after such a long time of being unhappy.
There you go. That's a beautiful way to end it on, actually. Thank you very much.
For a left-handed handshake.
Oh, I was doing that as like a presenting, but then I'll do.
I didn't want to leave you hanging. There you go.
Dude, look at this.
What's that? What's that thing?
It's the best day of my life. That's what this is. Da 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 da. Ross Tweddell from off of Cultaholic joined me on Desert Island Graps. Thank you for listening. We'll be back very soon. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. You can support us on Patreon by going to patreon.com/Cultaholic. Lastly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.